Welcome back to Revenue RX, the podcast at the intersection of pharmacy and finance. I'm your host, Lubna Mazen. Today, we're talking about the 835 Remittance Advice file. This is where reimbursement becomes reality and claims turn into cash. The 835 tells organizations what was paid, what was denied, what was adjusted, underpaid, and what responsibility has shifted to the patient. If the 837 is the claim billing out, the 835 is the payer's financial response coming back. For pharmacy revenue cycle teams, this file is one of the most important tools for understanding reimbursement integrity, denials trends, and revenue leakage. The 835 is the electronic remittance advice transaction standardized under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, more commonly known as HIPAA. Formally, the 835 is known as the X12 835 Healthcare Claim Payment and Remittance Advice Transaction. After a payer processes a claim submitted through the 837P or the 837I, the payer adjudicates the claim and returns the 835 file. The 835 communicates payment decisions, denial reasons, contractual adjustments, patient responsibility, recoupments, bundling decisions, and final reimbursement outcomes. Without the 835, organizations would struggle to automate payment posting, denial routing, accounts receivable reconciliation, underpayment identification, and reimbursement analytics. To understand reimbursement, you first need to understand how to read the remittance itself. Let's walk through the major sections commonly found within an 835 remittance advice. At the top of the remittance advice is the provider identification section. This section includes key information such as the provider's name, payer information, NPI numbers, check numbers, EFT details, and payment identifiers. For pharmacy revenue cycle teams, accuracy here matters. An incorrect NPI can create downstream authorization mismatches, reimbursement delays, or denials. For organizations managing payment reconciliation, EFTs and check tracing numbers are critical for matching payments to the expected reimbursement. Next are the payer announcements or remit messages. These are often overlooked, but they can contain important operational information. For example, payer policy changes, billing reimbursement updates, reimbursement methodology changes, modifier instructions, or claim submission reminders. Organizations that ignore remittance announcements may miss early warning signs of operational or reimbursement changes. The body of the remittance advice is the core financial detail of the 835. This is where organizations can see procedure codes, modifiers, billed charges, deductions, allowed amounts, paid amounts, denial information, reason codes, and your MRC codes. This section drives nearly every downstream revenue cycle workflow. The remittance advice explains which claims were paid correctly, which claims were underpaid, which services were denied, and why reimbursement changed or doesn't align with what was expected. The adjustment on the 835 file uses a standardized coding system called the Claims Adjustment Reason Codes. For further navigation of the Claim Adjustment Reason Codes, you can refer to the Remittance Advice Remark Codes. These codes help organizations categorize their denials, prioritize appeals, and identify systemic workflow failures. The 835 also identifies financial responsibility that is assigned to the patient. This includes deductibles, coinsurance, and copays. This information feeds through the patient billing workflows and affects collection processes across the health system. One of the most important functions of the 835 is to identify denials and underpayments. Some claims may be fully denied, while others may be partially denied, and some claims may appear to have paid, but they were reimbursed incorrectly. Without strong remittance analytics, organizations may never detect these issues. This is especially important for oncology agents, infusion therapies, clinic-administered meds, as well as cell and gene therapies. However, it's also important for lower-cost therapies. Even small reimbursement variances can create major financial impact when multiplied across thousands of administrations. The 835 may also include recoupment information. This is when a payer takes money back after the initial payment. Examples can include retroactive audits, overpayment recoveries, coordination of benefits adjustments, or claim reversals. After the claims details section, the Remittance Advice provides a total summary. This summary includes the total billed charges, total adjustments, total payments, and total patient responsibility. This section becomes important for payment balancing, reconciliation, and financial reporting workflows. Last on the 835, which is, in my opinion, the most helpful section, is the glossary. Every remittance advice includes a glossary. The glossary will help you identify denial reason codes, remark codes, payer explanations, and adjustment definitions. Understanding these codes is critical because how are you supposed to fix denials if you don't understand what they mean? A mature pharmacy revenue cycle program relies heavily on denials categorization and remittance analytics to improve reimbursement outcomes over time. Historically, remittance posting was often viewed as purely an accounting or patient financial services function. However, in today's reimbursement landscape, pharmacy reimbursement is far too operationally complex for that model to stand alone. Pharmacy leaders need visibility into denials, reimbursement trends, HCPCS payment variances, and line-level reimbursement. This would allow for pharmacy leaders to assess their operations to ensure that appropriate reimbursement is being obtained. Every upstream operational issue eventually appears downstream inside the 835. A documentation issue, a charge capture issue, an NDC mismatch, or a prior authorization failure. Advanced pharmacy revenue cycle programs closely monitor the 835. The Remittance Advice becomes an operational intelligence tool. It helps organizations identify revenue leakage, workflow breakdowns, payer behavior changes, underpayments, and compliance risks. Modern revenue cycle technology increasingly depends on automating the 835 process. Organizations can use the remittance data to auto-post payments, build denial workflow queues, trigger appeals, monitor payer performance, reconcile unexpected reimbursement, and identify reimbursement variances. Advanced organizations may even develop payer scorecards, denials dashboards, reimbursement variances reporting, and medication-level margin analyses. Reimbursement intelligence starts with remittance visibility. The 835 Remittance Advice file may not be glamorous. It's one of the most operationally important transactions in healthcare finance. Organizations that understand the remittance data are significantly better positioned to protect margin, improve reimbursement integrity, reduce revenue leakage, and strengthen financial sustainability. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Revenue RX, the podcast at the intersection of pharmacy and finance. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe and share this episode with a colleague and connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, healing patients is the mission, protecting the margin is the strategy. This is Revenue RX. Quick disclaimer, the contents discussed in this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only. The thoughts reflected are my personal opinions and experiences. This podcast does not constitute as legal, financial, reimbursement, or compliance advice. Please consult with the appropriate internal experts before making any decisions.